This is Sergeant John Smith, an NCO who was pulled over in Germany while having a blood alcohol content of .083. The legal limit in Germany is .05. His command was notified and he received a general letter of reprimand, filed in his official record. He was punished with an Article 15, commanding officers non-judicial punishment, reducing his rank from E5 to E4. He lost $8,000 in basic pay that year, while receiving 45 days of restriction to post and extended duty. He worked 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week while forfeiting a month's pay. His unit requested that he be separated from the Army for misconduct. Although he was recommended for retention based on his performance record and was allowed to stay on active duty, he struggled to be accepted back into his unit. Once back at work, Smith was often called upon to talk about his experience as an example. Smith was quoted saying, "I still have a stigma to this day with certain superiors." This is just one example of many cases of soldiers returning from combat zones and having an invincibility complex. After repeated exposure to traumatic events, a soldier may be more inclined to engage in dangerous situations such as driving under the influence. Many soldiers returning from war zones are challenged with reacclimating to normal life. These young soldiers use alcohol as a way to escape or get a rush. Others simply see that driving home is their only viable option, as it would either be expensive, inconvenient, or impossible to find a way back to base otherwise. Drunk driving is a completely preventable threat. Arrive Alive is a privately held company that aims to provide safe, controlled, and convenient transportation to service personnel from base to bars and then back home.
To use our service, a military ID is required to be presented when entering the bus. After verifying the legitimacy of the ID using a Common Access Card or CAC scanner, patrons will be allowed to enter the bus and get a free ride from base to one of the designated stops on the bus routes available. When ready to return, buses heading back to base can be tracked with our mobile application, and bus stops can be easily located using pins on the application's map. Military personnel must re-swipe their IDs to regain admittance to the bus. As part of our unique value proposition, bus drivers will be required to gain clearance on and off base so that bus patrons can be dropped off directly outside of their barracks or other on-base housing. Our service is intended to be paid for by military bases. Therefore, service members are not responsible for paying for transportation that can easily become expensive while traveling lengthy distances between bases and the locations of the bars. In a case study of Scott Air Force Base, one-way Uber charges can escalate to upwards of $40 to get to downtown St. Louis. While we intend to sell our service primarily to individual bases, additional revenue will come from local bars that are willing to pay a premium for advertising on our mobile application and bus drop-off locations placed outside of their establishments. Our service has the potential to become extremely beneficial to the local bar communities, who could potentially receive full busloads of paying patrons that they might otherwise not have access to without our service. While the number of DoD personnel who receive DUIs remains unpublished public information, the DoD decided that this is an issue important enough to warrant a published IGAP problem. IGAP is a problem that allows technological innovation from private companies to be contracted to the government, which ensures us and our investors that drunk driving prevention and reduction strategy is an area that the federal government is actively looking for solutions to implement. We think that our service and business model can be easily adapted to meet the needs of bases of all different sizes and locations around the country. We hope to raise $200,000 in startup funding to cover the costs of the first initial installment of our service, and then expand to more bases by reinvesting our revenue into our business. We are extremely thankful for those who serve our country, and we wish to give back by helping them arrive alive.